Good evening and welcome to the March 9th, 2015 Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. In accordance with the State Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on March 6, 2015 to the Hillsborough Beacon and Courier News. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely, Mr. Kintz. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte? Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Dutta? Mr. Gillette? Mrs. Haas?
Here.
Mrs. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Wasson?
Here.
And Mr. Kintz?
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you. I'm going to read a motion to entertain. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the laws of 1975 provides that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of a meeting of which the public body discusses certain matters for which confidentiality is required as permitted in Section 7B of the Act, resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Hillsborough in the County of Somerset and State of New Jersey as follows. The matters to be discussed are a personnel matter, a harassment, intimidation, and bullying hearing, and HEA negotiations. B, the matters discussed in executive session shall be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. I'd like to entertain a motion to go to closed session. So moved. Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going into closed session. We'll be back for the open session at 7:30. Thank you.
How are you?
Ready. Great, thank you. Thank you and welcome to the March 9th, 2015 Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting. We are returning from closed session. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Dutta? Mr. Gillette? Mrs. Haas?
Here.
Okay. Mrs. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Wasson?
Here.
Mr. Kintz?
Here. We have quorum.
We have a quorum.
Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have correspondence as is listed in the agenda, and I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Schiff for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Kintz. It's my pleasure to share some great news with the board and with the community this evening. Hillsborough High School senior Jared Silverstein attended the 57th Annual Grammy Awards in Los Angeles as a participant in the Grammy in the Schools Grammy Camp, which is a program for high school jazz musicians from across the country. As part of this program, Jared and other Grammy Camp students performed at several different Grammy events alongside Grammy-nominated and professional musicians. The student group also had the opportunity to record an album at the Capitol Records studio and perform for the Recording Academy at the Grammy nominee reception. Jared attended the Grammy pre-telecast ceremonies and went to the Staples Center to watch the actual Grammy Awards. He also performed at the after party. What an amazing opportunity. Congratulations, Jared.
That's cool.
Let's give him a hand. Now, highlighting one of our teachers, Hillsborough High School teacher Veronica DeGroot was contacted by Cake Masters, an international cake magazine, and asked to create a step-by-step tutorial for one of her cakes in their March issue. Ms. DeGroot's cake will also be featured on the March issue's cover. Congratulations, Ms. DeGroot. The Hillsborough High School swim teams attended the Meet of Champions on March 1st. The teams walked away with the biggest swim meet in New Jersey with 6 gold medals. Brad Zadroit earned 2 individual gold medals in the 100 and 200 free. Megan Bull earned a gold in the 200 IM, and Juliana Parker took home her gold in the 100 butterfly. All 4 individual gold medal winners were Hillsborough High School records, as well as All-American times. The girls' 200 medley relay, made up of Alexandra Temple, Megan Bull, Juliana Parker, and Deborah Stoddard, earned a gold medal, as well as the boys' 400 free relay, made up of Sam Hendricks, Ryan Morgan, Daniel Sanders, and Brad Zadroit. Congratulations to all of the Hillsborough swimmers who participated in the Meet of Champions. I also wanted to share that this weekend I had the wonderful opportunity to attend two extraordinary events. First, the Central New Jersey Science Fair was held here at Hillsborough High School this weekend, where we invited schools from around Central New Jersey to share all of their science activities. And these are for kids in grades 5 through 12, and it is hosted and organized by Team 75, our Robo-Raters. They did an extraordinary job focusing in on making sure that STEM is a major focus within our district. Let's give Team 75 and all of the students from Hillsborough as well as other districts a big round of applause for their participation. The second event that I had the pleasure of attending on Saturday was the Hillsborough High School Theater's presentation of Cats. If you have not seen it, it is truly extraordinary. From the music to the choreography to, oh my goodness, the lighting, the scenery, the pit orchestra, just extraordinary work. B.J. Solomon, our music director, as well as all of the students and the staff that volunteered, as well as parent volunteers, they did an extraordinary job. Let's give the people who participated in Cats this year, our annual musical at Hillsborough High School, a big round of applause. Thank you. I also want to talk a little bit about the district calendar, and let me put it up on the screen so that people can see. We have had a difficult winter in terms of how Mother Nature has been wreaking havoc on our instructional days. We've had 5 delayed openings this year, 1 early dismissal, and 4 closings since the beginning of the school year. As a result, we were back in school on President's Day, February 6th, which is here on the calendar. And as a result of the last snow day that we took, we will be in session on April 6th, which is the Monday after our spring break, which was a staff development day. That staff development day is rescheduled to June 19th. Now, I want to talk a little bit about March 13th. As part of the HEA and board contract, there needs to be 3 half-days within the calendar. I have spoken with Mr. Goodhue about making the 13th a full day for students rather than keeping it as a half day for kids and a half day staff development time. This gives us a little bit more instructional time with all of the disruptions. I believe that this is in our students' best interest. And in doing that, we would make the May 8th half day a teacher self-directed PD for that afternoon. The kids would come in the morning, and then the teachers would have independent self-directed work that afternoon, which I believe is what we agreed to. If I could see a thumbs up on that. Oh, and the instructional assistants also will use that time to complete the GCN training. Okay. So I am going to need to ask the board to act on that change in the calendar. Again, the change would be to eliminate May 8th as a half day and replace it with a full.
No.
I'm sorry, March 13th, excuse me. To eliminate March 13th as a professional development half day and to make that a full day for students. That's this Friday. And again, I apologize in advance to the board and to the community. I know that this is late notice. However, with last week alone, we had 2 delayed openings and 2 closures. So this gives our teachers and our kids a little bit more time together on that particular day. And in doing so, in order to agree to it with and be consistent with the agreement, the instructional aides will do their GCN time on the 8th, as well as that being a teacher self-directed time that afternoon. Still, the kids would come in the morning, and the teachers would have professional development in the afternoon. So I asked for the board to include that in the motions. We can't act on it now. We'll need to have public comment first before the board acts on that.
Okay. And real quick, just the assistants staff, the instructional.
Yeah, the instructional assistants have online training that they can complete during that particular period of time. Some of them have already completed the training, and if so, there will be they'll have additional work to complete on that particular day.
Okay. writing it down because I know
The
we're going to have
GCN training.
Thank you.
I'm not even sure what that stands for, general or something.
Okay.
General
Got it.
Compliance Network, Global Compliance Network. Thank you. All right, any other final questions on the calendar?
Just, we're going to make sure it's posted somewhere.
Yes, we will get out information to the community and to staff tomorrow morning, assuming the board approves it. All right, we'll also need to do a sidebar agreement with HEA to memorialize our conversation. All righty?
Yeah.
Okay. With your permission, Mr. Kintz, I'd like to do a brief presentation on the tentative budget.
Yes. Got it.
Okay. So tonight on the board's agenda is the approval of the tentative budget for the 2015-2016 school year. Giving you a little bit of background, our budget calendar actually begins in October with the principals and department heads submitting their budget requests and rationales to myself and Mr. Mahmood. In January, after we review those budgets and make changes, make reductions, make additions, I then submit the district's budget requests to each of the 3 standing board committees. Education looks at the education section of it, operations, their areas, as well as human resources. On February 25th, we received our state school aid, and on March 4th, the Operations Committee met to develop this tentative budget based upon the input of the committees of the board. Tonight, we are voting on the tentative budget. And during this period of time until mid-April or so, the committees will continue to meet, discuss the finalized budget, continue to listen to public input, and then on April 27th, we will have the hearing where the board will vote to approve the final budget for the 2015-2016 school year. So our program improvements and trying to fund the strategic plan, in this year's budget, we complete the full phase-in of our Mandarin Chinese program. This is a program that was started a few years ago as part of our strategic plan to provide our students with a Mandarin experience starting at the elementary level. And this year we actually have Chinese 2. Next year we'll offer Chinese 3 at the high school level. We've also made substantive changes to all of the languages, providing additional instructional experiences for the students in intermediate and middle school so that most of them can be prepared to take a level 3 their freshman year if they choose to continue with their the same language that they took at intermediate as well as at the middle school. Next year, we have planned to revise our mathematics curriculum, including new supplies and materials, training for teachers, as well as curriculum writing. This budget maintains all programs at the current level, as well as maintaining class size. The largest cost drivers in the budget, not a surprise, this is typical, are salary increases, as well as healthcare cost increases. Special education continues to be a larger cost driver in the budget. Transportation, which is also related in special education, in particular for out-of-district students, and the investments that we're making in curriculum are the 5 major cost drivers in the budget this year. How are we managing these increasing costs? We do a great deal of cooperative purchasing and shared service work. We continue with our CAP program, which allows us to generate additional revenue. This past year, we actually surpassed the $500,000 mark on the surpluses that has generated over the 3 years that we've had it. As many of you recall, we changed the start time of the middle school last year, which created a great deal of transportation efficiencies and savings. We have the educational school solutions at the high school, and we're considering broadening that to the middle school as well to help address students' social and emotional needs rather than sending them out of district. We're also doing some more capital projects, and we'll be talking about that in more detail in a few moments. But this year, we are doing some additional roofs, and those are being funded through the ROD grant process. That's regular operating districts, where the district only pays 60% of the cost, and the state picks up the other 40%. And we're currently reducing our energy consumption through the Energy Savings Improvement Plan. This year we started a $16 million construction project that is funded through the energy savings that's generated by that. We're already seeing energy cost reductions, and we look forward to completing the project over the summer. In the area of personnel, we've had this year alone unbudgeted positions which we are putting into the budget this year, which will carry over into next year. This year, in terms of unbudgeted positions, we have 2 ESL teachers, which the board approved. We also had 1 classroom teacher that helped us with keeping our class sizes down, and 1 teacher of the deaf. So 4 new positions unbudgeted in this year alone. What I'm asking for in the new budget in terms of new positions are 2 special education positions plus the part-time teacher of Chinese, which would complete the full roll-up. So this year, as well as what we're asking for in next year's budget, is an increase of about 6.3 full-time equivalent positions. However, with those increases, we need to see some decreases in other areas. We tried to make those decreases in areas that are not directly impacting students. We hope that these reductions will be handled through attrition. And we are looking at the reduction of 2 custodians, a maintenance staff member, 1 computer technician, and 1 teacher coach, our technology instructional support teacher in the district. We have received from the state, from the county office, that through the accountability regulations, there's a certain percentage of square footage that is calculated to be a particular staff member as custodian, and the state has identified us as having 2 additional custodians more than what is allowable through the accountability process. So we've been asked to look at that particular area first, and we are doing so. So in terms of capital expenditures, some things that we have put into our capital project are vehicles for buildings and grounds, technology networking equipment, security cameras, and one thing that is not in the tentative budget now, but has been discussed in the Committee of the Chairs, as well as briefly with the Operations Committee, is to redo the middle school parking lot. Anyone who has seen this parking lot or has driven on it knows that it is an absolute mess. There's a picture up here now of where it's gravel, where it had to be dug up because there was a water main break going in there. It really needs to be done. We have an estimated cost of a little over $800,000. We would like to use monies from our capital reserve in order to take care of that project. Now, I don't anticipate that we'll be spending that amount of money. I think that we'll probably be spending 60% of that, and we're going to search for additional ROD grant opportunities or to look at debt service aid, both of which would be 40% of the project. So we're hopeful and optimistic that that we'll be paying 60% of the cost, not 100% of the cost. One of the pressures that we're feeling in our budget is how the state is funding our district. About 1/5 of our revenues come from the state. However, that continues to be a shrinking portion of our entire budget. As you can see from the chart behind me, our state aid has remained flat for 4 years. In fact, in the year 2009-2010, we had $1 million more in state aid than what we currently have today. What that does is it puts additional pressure on our local property taxpayers as well as additional pressure on maintaining our programs. The entire state budget went up by 3.8%. Our state aid went up by nothing. We received no additional state aid this year, the exact same amount that we had last year. So in terms of generating the revenues enough to maintain our programs, to maintain our class sizes, and do the things that I spoke about before, we'll be increasing the levy by 2%, also using bank cap that we have available, $1.3 million, as well as taking the health care waiver, all of which is in the board's purview in order to do that, to raise the revenues necessary to support a thorough and efficient education. The estimated school tax rate for Hillsborough Levy would increase about 3.78%. That is an increase, or the rate, which is the coefficient that you multiply your $100 of assessed property value by in order to determine your actual property taxes. The rate is increasing by 2.99%, which means that a home assessed at $350,000 a year would see their property taxes increase by $161 for the year. We don't talk anymore about average home values in Hillsborough because a quarter of our homes are being reassessed annually. So we have a rolling reassessment. The average actually changes every single year. So we, as well as the Township Committee, are using the figure of $350,000. Now that means that if your home was not reassessed this year and you had the same assessed value of $350,000, that the increase would be $161. If your home is assessed less than that, it would be less. Your home is assessed more, it would be more. The Millstone Borough tax rate, remember we're actually 2 communities that send their kids to our district. Tax levy is increasing by 4%. The tax rate increase is 2.94. So a home assessed at $350,000 would increase almost the same as a Hillsborough home. Instead of $161, it's $165 for the year. Hillsborough has prided itself, and we continue to pride ourselves on being very frugal with the public dollars. This is a chart that illustrates our spending per pupil on total administrative costs. There is a report that comes out annually from the DOE. The most recent one is the 2014 Taxpayers Guide on Education Spending, which can be found on the DOE website. We actually spend a little bit more than $1,200 per student for administrative costs. In the state average is over $1,500. Like districts is close to $1,500, $1,485. So we spend significantly less per pupil than like districts similar to our size, as well as the state average. When we look at our total budgetary cost per pupil, all costs in budgetarily wise, the state average is $14,781. Like districts are almost identical. It's $14,783. Our per pupil spending is $13,624. So when we talk about frugal spending, our spending is $1,157 less per pupil than the state average. So if we multiply that by the amount of pupils that we have, we would have to raise an additional $8 million. So our tentative budget, this is what it is. It's broken up into 3 different areas: our general fund, grants, entitlements, and repayment of debt. Our total tentative budget that I'm asking for the board's approval and consideration is $120,850,822, an increase of 2.72%. Now, a few things just to highlight the work that we've been doing over the past few years. In particular, in technology, we have received regional, state, and national attention, in particular with our partnership with Google Play for Education. We were the host district and received 3,000 Nexus 7 individual computing devices for our children at the elementary level. Our work and the work of our curriculum department, as well as our technology department, as well as all of the teachers, support personnel, and of course our students, has been recognized as a model for other districts to follow. Each year we invite many districts from around the region to see the work that we're doing here in Hillsborough. We have been invited to present in England. We've presented in Georgia, in California. We continue to share the work that we're doing that we're very proud of. But mostly we're proud of providing the children with an extraordinary experience. Our world languages, as I shared before, is another area of our strategic plan that we're doing some really extraordinary work in. Our ESIP, it's going to be difficult to see, but the ESIP is calculated to save next year over $834,000 in energy savings. Let me say that again. Our ESIP is going to save $834,000 of energy savings. New lights have been put into throughout the building, in fact, throughout the district. New commodes, new sinks, new windows at the high school. We're also air conditioning the second floor here at Aris, as well as the second floor of the high school as well, and saving energy costs as we're doing it. You know, it's nice that we share all of the good things that we're doing, but it's even better when we have outside organizations that come on in and talk about the work that's going on in the state as well as in our district as well. The state of New Jersey was ranked by Wallet Hub as the #1 school system in the entire country. Education Week ranks us #2. The National Assessment of Educational Progress consistently ranks New Jersey as one of the top performing states in the entire country. When we look at the niche rankings, which evaluates school districts around the state, Hillsborough Township has been ranked 27th on the best public schools districts in New Jersey. NerdWallet, didn't even know that they existed, but they take a look at how, if we're a good bang for our buck, the best school districts for your buck in New Jersey, Hillsborough was ranked 32 out of 266 school districts evaluated. The New Jersey Monthly has ranked Hillsborough High School as the 76th best high school in the state. That's from over 300 high schools. And Newsweek ranks Hillsborough High School as the 177th top high school in the country. So the efforts that we have done over the years continues to make impressive results, even when looked at by outside organizations. Some key points. This particular budget maintains the quality of our programs, does not increase class sizes. Our per pupil spending continues to be well below state and similar district averages. We are continuing to control our energy costs through our ESIP, and the final budget for 2015 will be voted on the 27th. And we encourage the community to come out, share with us your thoughts and concerns, and we'll continue to contemplate our budgetary priorities. I thank you for your attention, and I open it up for the board for any questions or thoughts.
Okay, first I'll open it up just for clarification questions, and then we can have discussion. Okay, I have one. If you can talk a little bit more with regard to the cost drivers, with us having the 2% cap, just how these different cost drivers are increasing in comparison to some of our statutory limits.
Yeah, and that's really going to be our challenge moving forward. Without available bank cap moving into future years, we must maintain our cost increases to no more than probably a little bit less than 2%, because if state aid continues to be flat, we can only raise the levy 2%, and the levy is not the entire part of our revenue side of the budget. So special education is one area that's actually increasing beyond 2%. Sometimes it's 6, 7% at times. This year coming up, it's a little bit over 3%. So we're going to be looking at trying to raise additional revenues in order to maintain the quality of our special education programs. But you know, this is going to be our challenge moving forward, to maintain our cost increases to no more than 2%.
Mrs. Haley.
I would just like either Mr. Mahmood or Dr. Schiff to make a clarification for the public, as this could, because it's tentative, potentially be the second year in a row that we're going over 2%. And I think there's a misconception by the public that if a budget is presented by a school district over 2%, that they have a vote in it, which is not true, because there's asterisks in the law. So can you explain why they will not have a vote?
Sure. Yeah, it's really an average of 2% over a period of time. So the board has gone under that 2% for a few years, and as a result, we have generated bank cap. It is also allowable to pass along additional health care costs that are extraordinarily high beyond the 2%. that can also put additional pressure on local property taxpayers. But let me say this. Without the state increasing state aid, or at least keeping close to inflation, that makes it that much more difficult for local school districts to maintain programs.
I don't disagree.
And just to further clarify in terms of what goes out to what's can be addressed by the board and what could be addressed by the public, and is that if we choose to go to extend spending beyond that rate, whether it's for a specific one-time investment or if it's for continuing, we'll go out to a referendum, and then the taxpayers would vote for anything that's above the 2% rate, also anything that's above the cap bank and the health insurance waiver.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that we've received budgetary requests, and the board actually gets all of the budgetary requests. We've received requests for additional guidance support. We've received requests for full-day kindergarten. We've received requests for additional support for theater programs. We received additional requests for our robo-raters and our STEM initiatives too. Those type of costs we have to think about in the future as costs that we may have to ask the community to increase. Rather, that may be outside of the board's decision-making authority to do in the future. It may be. We'll have to see. A lot of it is contingent upon state aid. If state aid starts to come in and starts to move, it releases the pressure.
Yeah, we're going to wait till comment later when we separate out
Sure.
items, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any other general discussion? Okay, so we will in the action agenda in the operations section there are there are 3 action items, resolutions with regard to the tentative budget. I will separate those out when we get to that so that we can focus discussion and have our discussion on that specifically during that time. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Is that it for the?
That's it for my report.
Okay. Committee reports. I'm trying to think if we had.
Minutes, right?
Well, we had governance and operations, but
we
really
don't have the minutes.
we don't have minutes for that.
Okay.
It really was just developing the tentative budget.
Okay.
Parameters.
Right. So last week, I think it was a
Monday, Wednesday.
and Wednesday. We had
When it
committee
didn't
meetings,
snow.
but we'll report those out when the minutes are ready.
A few days.
The few days it didn't snow.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'd like to open. Perfect segue. Now I'd like to open it up to the public for input on the 2015-16 budget. You've seen the presentation with regard to the tentative budget, which we'll be acting on later this meeting. So I will open it up again to the public for public input and comment with regard to the 2015-16 budget. Name and address, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Salinger. I live in Bridgewater, but I teach here in Hillsborough. I'm also the Hillsborough Education Association treasurer. I have one question about the budget presentation. You mentioned technology security cameras. Are these like surveillance cameras or something for the computers? I'm not sure what that means.
Sure. They are actually, we don't do surveillance, but they're cameras in which we can actually retain, footage if we need it. So I can't use the word surveillance because we don't have technically a surveillance system that we sit there and monitor every camera. Okay. But they are cameras that would be used in case we need to access footage of corridors, and it's really more safety and stuff like that.
Okay, and then I also had a comment. I had spoken to you all last year in April about the continued unfunded mandates from our state, and I gave you some examples of some other districts in New Jersey who had passed resolutions, which doesn't necessarily change it, but it lets the state know what your stance is. So, we continue to have unfunded mandates such as the park testing, which costs a lot of money. We went 1-to-1, and, we can't say to them, no, we don't want to give the park, but like you said, our state aid has been flat for 2 years. The teacher evaluation, that's an unfunded mandate because we had to buy the strong model, buy the technology, all of that stuff. So my question is, could you consider doing a resolution, or is there an appeals process to say to the state, this is what you've forced us to do, and you haven't given us the funds to do it properly without hurting taxpayers, without hurting teachers, and without hurting children. And I think it's important to start considering those things, and just even if it doesn't get you anywhere, it takes a stand and it lets the community know that this is how we feel about the unfunded mandates. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike DiLorenzo. I'm a junior at Hillsborough High School, and I'm also a member of the HHS Theater. I want to start off by saying thank you, Dr. Schiff, for coming to our performance. I saw you coming out of the theater with quite the smile, and it was very nice of you to come and attend our show, so I want to thank you for that. I did also notice that you touched upon the theater requests. A lot of us have put in our, struggle with the budget upcoming, so I just want to touch upon that. I'm not sure if you remember, but I came here in November talking about this issue too, and some discussion took place, but I want to know what the stance is on that, then I'll talk about it more. So can you just tell me what the update is on?
Yeah, there's no additional funds for any co-curricular activities. What we were able to do in this budget is to maintain all of the current co-curricular activities without having to do activity fees or other type of things that other boards have had to do. And I hope we don't have to do that moving forward.
All right. Well, in response to that, I would just like to say that I was at the performances this weekend, and a lot of people came up to me and were like, oh yeah, the show was so great. And it was very touching because a lot of schools, I went to a Manville school not too long ago. I went to a Manville High School production that literally made us look like Broadway because the funding just wasn't there, dedication just wasn't there, and I'm really struggling with the fact that may happen to Hillsborough if we cannot retain our artistic director in a full-time position, because competing schools like Franklin have their artistic director, and we would like to have our artistic director full-time too, because the job really is full-time, and without the dedication, it's very hard for us to keep achieving these high rankings. And I think that the ratings you were talking about, 117th or something in the nation, are attributed to our extracurricular activities, which are not receiving the funding that I think they deserve, and I think the public thinks so too. Thousands of people came to see our show this weekend, and I know that the budget is tight, but I want you to think about how everyone goes on a diet after New Year's. That's the New Year's resolution. Everyone wants to go on a diet, but they don't have the time. But everyone says that if you make it a goal, you have to make the time for the diet. So I think that it's the board's responsibility and duty to make the funds appropriate for the funding, make the funds appropriate to make sure that programs like the theater program at the high school continue, because a lot of people, including myself, would be unhappy if next year we come into school all ready to go and the person who's been leading our theater program for over 8 years has disappeared. Also, in response to the last time I was here, you stated, this is in November, so it was before the budget was made, but Dr. Schiff stated that the budget is a reflection of the board's values, and it kind of feels like you're not valuing extracurricular activities as highly as they should be, and it's very disappointing because a lot of people take the theater department and other extracurricular activities as a stepping stone to figure out what they want to do when they're older as a career, and by not funding it and kind of putting it on the back burner, a lot of people might be deterred from going into the theater profession and becoming an artistic director for a high school. And it's very disappointing because I actually want to consider a job in teaching and administration. And not that this is related to theater, but I'm just saying that a lot of people depend on these extracurricular activities to pursue a career somewhere. So I think the funding is well worth it, even though it may be costly and there's a lot of clubs and activities. But the theater program attracts people from across the state. Different people come from Pennsylvania and other places to come see our shows. And it's not just you see it in the newspaper and you come, people know about it. People come from all over. And I think that will be lost if Mr. Solomon doesn't come back next year. And yeah, I just want to end with that. I hope that you guys reconsider your thoughts on the theater program, because if I have to come back here next year, I probably will be in tears, not with a smile on my face. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Christina Skirbo, 97 Oxford Place. Last week, some parents came and discussed some concerns about park testing. I have a question as to where, as a parent, you can find out what we spent as a district on park testing. I know
We
Patterson
actually-
has, oh, I'm sorry. I know Patterson, I have read articles that as a district, they spent $5 million for everything contributed to park testing, like $113,000 for outside training. I did send an email to Lisa Antunes asking about some information as far as what is spent on park testing. And her reply to me was that the total amount of money spent for park supplies totals $5,327.90. Additionally, the individual cost per Chromebook is $407, which includes the actual unit, a management fee, a configuration fee, and a protection plan. I guess as a district, I think Patterson has around 16,000 students. I guess we have maybe as a total, I guess, and I'm going with what's being tested, around 4,900 students I believe is an accurate guess. So, I mean, if they're spending $5 million to administer the park test, I don't know where, that small figure comes from. So I'm wondering as a parent where I can go for accurate information to find that out.
Yeah, I can't speak for what Patterson pays for their tests.
No, where I can find out what we are paying as a school
I understand
district.
your question. I think what has to be clear is that the state pays for the actual assessment. And I think it was just reported today or yesterday that the state's investment in the park was, I think, over 21 or 22 million, somewhere around there. And maybe someone at the audience, if you... $22.1 million, which I think is about $25 per kid. That was an interesting article because it was reported that it was a little bit less than what the state purchases per kid for the NJ Ask. The total amount is more because they're testing about 200,000 more students in the state of New Jersey than that. But I was going to indicate to you that Dr. Antunes just researched that question for you, as well as we had a couple of board members that had the same inquiry as that. We do all of our training as part of faculty meeting type of thing, so we're not removing staff from classes to do that. In terms of the user-friendly budget doesn't have information directly related to park, but she actually went through and took a look at what are the direct expenses related to park. What we didn't calculate in that is all the instructional time that is used for park. A cost can be associated with that, but we didn't include that into our factor.
I mean, I know they're looking at the budget. I did find something, and I don't know what this, there was something for equipment in 2012-13 that was $80,900. That amount went up in the 2013-14 school year to $331,978. And it's saying anticipated for 2014-15 was 200, I can't read my writing, it's a 2 or a 7, 297,487. Is Chromebooks in here some, because I know we were required as a parent to get it, and Dr. Lisa Antunes did say that we pay around $407 for each Chromebook.
Right.
So where does that...
Our Chromebooks are on a 4-year lease. And we did this not for the park. We didn't buy computers for park. We did this as part of our strategic planning in order for kids to have different experiences with technology that can enhance and enrich their learning. It wasn't because of park. Some districts, however, don't have a one-to-one, and as a result, they are shutting down their libraries for weeks at a time and rotating kids through computer labs. A very different experience than what we're doing. Some of them are testing for an entire month straight, just cycling groups of kids through their computer labs.
And as a parent, for that amount, I know I have 2 children. We pay, I believe, $45 for insurance for the Chromebook. If you have a child that starts using it in 5th grade, you're essentially... we're saying we're giving you guys Chromebooks for a student, but if you have a student that is getting one in 5th grade and goes through 12th, you're paying $360. So essentially, as a parent, depending how many kids you have and what grade they start with, we essentially are paying for the cost of the Chromebook.
I'm paying for the cost for the insurance, but you are right. There is an
But
expense
it covers,
that
I
we're,
mean, $360 pretty much covers the, the $400 Chromebook.
right, but we wouldn't use the Chromebooks for 8 years. It's a
I
4-year
know,
lease.
a 3-year life, I believe they possibly have 3 or 4 years.
Well, they're going to need to make it for 4 years. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association, 16 Laurel Drive as well. I just wanted to voice my concerns to the board regarding the possible reduction of custodial staff or maintenance in building and grounds. I don't know if the board is aware that comparatively to surrounding districts that are of our size, of our number of schools, students, staff, et cetera, that we run an extremely small group. I realize that there's a ratio, if you will, that the state gives for our custodial staff. But given the harsh natures we've been experiencing, the demands placed on our buildings, the state of some of our buildings, I ask that the board consider the hidden costs of reducing those crucial staff members, whether through attrition or other means, and seriously consider if those savings can be recouped from other places. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public comment with, just to confirm, this is for the budget?
It's about the park testing.
Okay.
Should I wait or?
We'll transition over now to general comment. So come on up. Name and address, please.
My name is Danielle Shavino. I'm a resident at 101 Kimberly Road. I also am a therapist working with children in the district. My address for my private practice is 323 Courtyard Drive. I'm going to talk about park and Common Core and the standardized testing in general and how I see that it is affecting the children. It's probably a different take than what you have heard before in everyone talking about not wanting park. But what I have seen, honestly, in the years since Common Core started to come into play in the districts, in general, I've been here in Hillsborough for the last 9 years, but I was in other districts and other areas before that. So I've been working with children for quite a long time at this point. But when I first got into private practice, the majority of the kids that I would see would be kids dealing with, things like ADHD or autism or some sort of trauma, OCD, things like that. But once Common Core started really going with it, I started seeing a huge increase in the amount of kids that are dealing with anxiety and depression. The amount of homework that is put on these children is huge. I mean, even starting, my own children are kindergarten and 4th grade, but even my own children aside, like kids that are elementary level are getting homework that is lasting them 2 hours a night. When you get to the high school level, these kids are having homework that can be 2 hours a night per class. And you're talking about there's English homework, there's history homework, there's math homework. They don't have any free time. And what happens when our kids don't have free time is they don't have a way to reduce their anxiety that they're building. And that's why you're seeing so many things. I'm seeing so many kids that are coming in with all these anxiety-related disorders, whether it's cutting or suicidal ideation, just all-out school refusal, panic attacks. I can go on. And I'm not saying that it is only the school's domain and only the school's fault. I don't want you to think I'm saying that, but I'm saying that it is a big piece of it. Their day, they're here for 7 hours a day, and then they're going home and doing another 2 to 10 hours of homework a night. And where is their free time? And then they're also, because in order to get ready for college, they have to be involved in after-school activities or sports or something else. There is no time. These kids, the high school kids, are staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning just to get homework done. And then they have to get up at 5:30 to be able to get the bus and get to school. They're extremely sleep deprived. This is where I want you to realize that, yes, I moved to Hillsborough because Hillsborough has an excellent school district. As you talked about in the beginning, that's why I came to this town. I was well aware of school districts and where I could go. I chose Hillsborough. And I love it for that, but I want you to see the downside to all of this academic push that is going on. Everything is pushed for, and now with the park coming, everything is being pushed for language arts and math, and the other stuff is falling behind. I mean, we heard someone talk about the drama program. The drama program is an excellent program for kids. We need the arts programs. We need these other programs for kids that, at least within the school day, if they're there in arts or they're there and doing something else, that's somewhat of a relaxation for them. That's somewhat of a way for them to kind of cope with the anxiety that they're building up. So that's mainly what I wanted to say, to please consider that when you're looking at everything. And I know that the state mandates the standardized testing. I know they mandate the Common Core. But as a voice, you can talk to the state. You can go to them and say, this isn't working. New Jersey had excellent schools before Common Core came into it. We didn't need Common Core to tell us how to have good schools here. We had them already. We don't need that to tell us what to do.
Thank you.
Hello again. Hello. I was hoping, now that we're on to new business, are we officially new business? Yep. I'd like to ask for a clarification on items C4 and C5 in the agenda under operations, please.
Okay.
Just specifically what services would be provided by the Middlesex County Educational Service Commission, and how that would impact the staff and students in our schools.
Sure. Mr. Mahmood?
Sure. I believe, Mr. Goodhue, that the ESC for Middlesex provides, it's an educational component for disabled students, and I believe rather than flipping the bill for a private school, there are options that get developed in the IEP. That's an option for us. I don't have the stats as to how many students are in the ESC that we send out of district. However, it is a lot cheaper than sending it to an out-of-district place to a private school. We also, when we sign that agreement, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have a roster of children at that school. It gives the board the ability to be able to send the child to that school as opposed to a private school.
Great. So that's just providing alternatives for out-of-district.
Yeah, but I can't say to you right here that we don't have a child currently at that ESC.
Sure. No, I was just asking specifically how that would impact teachers within this district if there was an intent to bring those services here.
Yeah, it would be
out-of-district.
Correct. I'm sorry, Henry. It would be an out-of-district placement. So
Okay.
just save the board money from going to a private out-of-school and rather than going to an ESC.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comment with regard to new business or the act? And then C5?
C5, yeah, I can explain. Sorry about that, Henry. C5, the non-public school allocation, the Somerset ESC does manage that for us. What they do is we get an allocation, federal allocation for that, and they manage the funding. Actually, there is a little bit of a fee that they collect. However, internally, it would be a lot greater in an expense to the board if we managed the non-public. So basically, what they do is they manage the funding and the process for invoicing on behalf of the district, and that's the agreement we've had with them for years. It's not a new agreement. We're just renewing an agreement that we've had with them for years. It doesn't take away any responsibility from teaching staff or anything like that. It's just an administrative function that the ESC provides for us.
And that, again, is related to out-of-district placements?
It's non-public schools.
Non-public
schools.
Private
Great.
schools.
Thank
Private
you.
schools.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other public input on new business or items on the action agenda, start with the action agenda. Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Kentz. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of education: to approve travel and related expenses, the family science sessions, review the policies for second reading, 26, 22 student assessment, approve the field trip destinations, the HIB intimidation and bullying investigation lists, and I also have some additional language under this motion that was recommended by Mr. Lapira. Be it resolved that the board hereby affirms the HIB matters that the superintendent reported to the board at their last meeting. So if we can just include that.
Okay, thank you.
Also to approve the IDEA carryover funds as listed.
Okay. So we'll have an item A7 that reads, be it resolved that the board hereby affirms the HIB matters that the superintendent reported to the board at the last meeting, which would have been February 16, 20, get the calendar. February 23rd, thank you. And then also item A8 would be a motion to eliminate the March 16th in-service day, replace it with a full instructional day.
No, 13th. Sorry.
Thank you.
Friday the 13th again.
Friday the 13th, yes. Thank you.
Sorry, Tom.
And, no, I'm glad you're correcting me. And then make the May 8th in-service day for, keep it as an in-service day, but have the in-service portion be for teachers' self-directed professional development and for the instructional assistants for GCN training. Okay, and then we'll have a sidebar to affirm that, or to codify that. Okay. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items A1 through A8 as listed in the agenda and just described from the dais. Thank you, Mrs. Haas. Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Oh. Do we want to separate out any items? Oh, that's further down. Okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Passes. Continuing on with the agenda.
Thank you,
Action
Mr.
agenda, Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Kentz. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions that I'm recommending under the area of human resources to approve the retirements of Susan LaMonica. She has worked in the district since 2002 as an instructional assistant here at Hillsborough Elementary School. Jill Leonard, teacher of Reach from Amsterdam, who has also been with us since 1992. John McCole, who's been with us as a maintenance worker since 1972. Jim Schoof, who's our applied technology teacher at the high school, has been with us since 1977. Mary Witt, who's a teacher of mathematics at Hillsborough Elementary School, has been with us since 1993. And we applaud their work and their industry with this district for those many, many years. Also approve the attached resolution for termination. Approve the revised leaves of absences, the leaves of absences, the transfer and change in assignments, as well as approve the appointments of a school nurse, instructional assistant, mentors, substitutes, student teachers, and extra period coverage.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items B1 through B8 of the action agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas? Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Continuing on with the action agenda, Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Kentz. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of operations to approve line item transfers, monthly financial reports, the jointure agreement with Montgomery Township, the agreement with Middlesex Ed Services Commission, and to approve the 2015-2016 non-public public program instructional services agreements, approve the tentative budget for 15-16, approve the use of bank cap and health care benefits waivers, approve the related expense reimbursements, and approve the capital reserve account withdrawals, and the donation of a double base from Pam De Los Santos, and we appreciate her generous donation.
I'm going to pull out a couple action items. So first will be, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items C1 through C5, C8, and C10.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Pull out C4 and 5 for me.
You bet.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's going to be C1 through C3, C8, and C10. Okay,
So moved.
have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
Mr. Kantz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items C4 and C5 of the action agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
Oh, Mr. Cohen, sorry about that.
Pass.
Abstain? Okay.
Abstain?
No, abstain, pass.
No.
Pass.
Yes or no?
It has to be yes or no, I can't pass on this one?
Yes, no, or abstain?
Yes, no, or abstain.
This is, you can pass?
And then it comes to you, and
Oh.
then you can pass it, and then it goes back there.
Fine.
So you can pass.
Okay, so you're passing. Okay. We'll come back to you.
Okay. Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kantz?
Yes?
Okay.
Mr. Cohen?
Mr. Cohen?
How many yeses do we have?
We have one,
Are
two,
you
three,
reading?
four, five.
This is for C4 and C5.
C5.
I apologize. My vote is yes.
Yes? Okay. Thank you. Motion passes.
I didn't keep track of what that other item was for the tentative budget.
Okay, now we're at the big agenda. Okay, now I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items. I'll do this all in totality. C6, which is the tentative budget. C7, which is the motion to approve the bank cap funds and health benefits waiver, and C9, which is to approve the capital reserve account withdrawal.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. And on we have it.
Under
Yes.
C9, I had told Iman, it says,
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
the
Yes.
district intends to utilize these funds for the following roofing projects.
Yes, the word roofing needs to be eliminated.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. We'll make it so it's as amended. Okay, any discussion?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
Let me think about it.
Discussion on what, I'm sorry.
This is for the tentative budget and all the resolutions that are tied within.
So both the.
It's for the
This is for 6, 7, and 8.
6,
no,
7,
6, 7,
sorry,
9.
6, 7, and 9,
and 9.
which are all the budget-related motions.
I'll just make one comment.
Okay. Mrs. Haley?
I will be voting no on the tentative budget. I say this year after year, that we're now taking all of our bank cap, yet again going for the healthcare waivers, and I'm hoping that we are putting ourselves on a path of sustainability when it comes to our spending. I still don't necessarily agree with some of the things that we're doing. I don't want to cut programs from the kids. I don't want to lose teachers, and I know we're not doing that. But if we continue down this path, especially after using our last $1.3 million in bank cap, I'm a little frightened for the future. I think we need to start looking at other things, and as we continue over the next few weeks, I'll make my thoughts known. But I just wanted to at least put that on the table as to why I would be voting no this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Haley. Okay. In the presentation with regard to for the tentative budget, one of the things that has struck me is the level of state aid that has occurred over the past 4 years. Even the 2010, 11, and 2011, 12, that was a significant drop from over 26 million to down to 21 million. The fact that we're not even where we were 5 years ago, or I'm sorry, 6 years ago, is disappointing. I'm trying to be politically objective or neutral, in that the fact that over the past 4 years that there has not been any increase even for inflation, just to me just means that the state is pushing the responsibility, pushing their obligation that they have, and this is not even with regard to formulas in which they're supposed to fund schools, but just even in the means of keeping with inflation, that they're pushing the responsibility onto the local taxpayers. This district has been very strong in managing its money. This board has been very oriented towards getting the biggest bang out of the buck. That is being recognized from outside organizations. With regard to this specific budget, I encourage the administration and ourselves to look at other areas that we can use. But and I personally have voted for budgets. I think half the time I've been here has been against budgets, and I've expressed even last year concerns that I had about sustainability. I still share those concerns, but when I see that the state refuses to meet its obligations and the desire not to go back from what we've done over the past 4 years, I will be supporting the tentative budget. I want to remind everybody that the final budget is actually on April 27th, so I ask all stakeholders involved to provide input. I think we're also doing things in a creative way to help manage our expenses. For example, the middle school parking lot, which is one I drop my daughter off multiple times a week just for early band practice, and this is a way that we're going to be able to improve the physical plant, but do it in a way that minimizes the impact to the taxpayers. So we're going to continue with doing that as best as we can. So those are my thoughts right now with regard to the tentative budget. Mrs. Bogaczewski.
I just have a quick question. I realize this is a tentative budget, so it doesn't matter which way it swings or whatnot. My main question is if nothing changes with this budget and it stays the same and it passes, will we have any reserve or in our I guess like in our accounts?
So, do you want to talk about surpluses? Sure. So, and just to help.
I guess that's my main concern. I mean, obviously, I'm very for small class sizes, lots of teachers. I don't want any specials to get cut. I mean, I'd love to give money to the theater program. I mean, I want all of this. Yet I don't want to go past the 2% cap. I don't want our taxes to be raised. So I guess my question is that exactly what is do we have any reserve?
Yeah, please. Ms. Bogaczewski, I think it's a good question. The district is required by law. There's all types of different reserves. We do have money in capital reserve, which we've proposed to draw down some money tonight. And then we're also looking at the middle school, which is about $800,000 or so. As Dr. Schiff indicated, we're hoping that is reduced by an offset, whether it be a ROD grant or debt service. But we do have other surplus accounts. Now that, I don't want to call it reserve, but the district does have money in surplus. It's not money that we typically would take out of reserve to pay for different things. It's not that. There's contingencies that are built within the operating budget that you have here today, but what we're doing slowly but surely is we're narrowing that gap with our reserves. So each year that we don't make budget reductions, we're actually narrowing the gap. We've had larger surpluses in the millions, and every year that we balance our budget over the last few years, we're narrowing that gap with surplus, which only means there's not a lot to tap into. So there's going to be a year where we have nothing in reserve, and that's going to make it very cautious for the board. But hopefully we don't get to that, and hopefully we get additional state aid. But what I want to explain is that with surplus, while we certainly have money on reserve, it's more of money that's mandated for us to keep on reserve. A 2% cap surplus reserve is required by law, and then anything above that is additional reserve. But we wouldn't necessarily draw that down to fund the program. What we're doing tonight is approving a tentative budget that will certainly support the current programs, but we wouldn't be able to draw down for other programs with that money. But it does give the board a little bit of flexibility with reserve money, the legal requirement, and also have money in case, heaven forbid, we have a major drastic situation in the district that we have to fund. So I hope I answered your question. I don't want to say to you that we have reserve, because actually what we're doing in this budget is narrowing our surplus, which is taking away reserves.
Right, because each year, everything is going up and up and up, and obviously costs are up, and our schools need things to fix, and I just want to make sure that if this budget goes through and something happens, that's unpredictable, even something, as Mother Nature, something as simple as that, I just want to make sure that we have those funds, God forbid. Yeah. That's what worries me.
And I think based on the mandate with our 2% and the amount of money that we have in reserve, I believe that we would be able to sustain. I don't know what type of impact, what the cost would be if we had a drastic situation. However, I can share with you that we're meeting the law requirements and that the district's financial portfolio right now is healthy. I can't say publicly that the district's portfolio is in bad shape. However, if we continue to have years like this where we diminish surplus, then that health will diminish with it.
Right. I mean, because you just can't keep, counting on, state aid.
Right.
That I feel that we have been. I mean, we're always counting on that, and it just seems that it's just getting smaller and smaller.
Yep.
And our needs are surpassing the state aid.
Yep. Dr. Sasan.
Ms. Haley, did you have something to clarify before I
Yeah, I do.
say?
I just want to not to put words in your mouth. I think that there's maybe some confusion on what the difference between bank cap and reserves are. We would be depleting our bank cap with this budget. It's a separate item from what we put in capital reserves or surplus. So I just want to make that clarification.
Okay. So noted.
Okay.
Dr. Sasan.
So a couple of things. First of all, we all pay income taxes into the state, and it is there for us to, they should be paying a portion back for our education as they have before. We should be able to count on state aid. I just wanted to say that because Dana, I felt like we should not be looking to the local taxpayer over and over and over again. We are allowed to increase by 2% a year, which enables us to meet our staff increases.
Is that a speaker?
Our negotiated staff increases, and is there somebody coming in? But I had a couple of questions specific to the budget. The first is the difference between, you had said that if you had a house that was assessed at $350,000, that $161 of it would be, we would have a $161 increase. What portion of that do we know is due to the 2%, meeting the 2% cap versus the health care waiver versus the using the $1.3 million in bank cap?
I'd have to do the math on it, but the quick would be about $60 worth would be a third of that. About in terms of
the bank cap and the health care waiver.
Yeah, actually, real quick, I'll take a stab at it. So when you look at the slide deck that you had with regard to the tax levy cap and the three components, the 2% increase is about $1.7 million. When you look at the cap bank, that's 1.3, and then the waiver is 0.4, so it's about half and half.
It gets a little bit more complicated than that because the tax rate is calculated over a calendar year versus these figures that he indicated are calculated over a fiscal year. Don't want to over, compound it, but this is basically what it is.
I just think it's useful for the public to know these details because we're talking about different pots of money and, that we're not necessarily increasing $161, over a $350,000 house, but we'd be talking about an $82 increase, even if we just went to 2% cap. So, I think it's good for them to understand that. The other thing is that, when one of our major cost drivers is the increase in special education. We've talked about it in all of the committee meetings. That the state has imposed upon public education a 2% cap, but we send a good portion of a good number, 70 students out of district, and those private schools that we send them to do not have a cap, and some of them are up to 10% increase. when you consider that some of their tuition is at $100,000, which for regular ed student here, we're talking $13,000 to $14,000. That is the cost of, add on to their transportation, their special services. You're talking about more than the increase on that is more than educating a regular ed student here. The state needs to do something about the increasing cost of special education, and not pushing that to the local taxpayer. Hillsborough has a wonderful special ed program. People move here because of it. Unfortunately, sometimes when they move here, we can't serve the needs of their children, and we have to send them out of district. That's, just part of the game. But it's an unsustainable thing for Hillsborough to take on without some assistance, some more assistance from the state. So I do think we need to count on our taxpayers to continue to put pressure on, and our unions, to put pressure on the state to help fix the situation. Otherwise, it will be unsustainable. We're hoping that with this 2% increase, needing the 2% cap, taking the $1.3 million bank cap, not leaving any bank cap for the future, and a $400,000 health care waiver, that we can start to make things sustainable. But if we still see flat aid, even though the state budget is going up by more than 3%, and if we still see 10% increases in the cost of special ed private schools, it won't be sustainable. So I think nobody on the board wants to use up our bank cap, wants to take the health care waiver. But what choice do we have unless we start hitting, we're a lean school program already. Nobody wants to increase class sizes. Nobody wants to do away with programs. Mike, I'm very sympathetic to the theater program, and you are asking us what our values are. By going to cap, by using the $400,000 health care waiver, by using the $1.3 million bank cap, we're showing our values as not cutting those programs, not cutting sports, not cutting robotics, not passing those costs along to the taxpayer. Those programs will be unsustainable if we can't solve these situations from a state level and look to the state for more assistance. So I'm going to be voting yes. Not because I want to spend more money or not because I want to pay more taxes, but because we have a great school system and we need to protect it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swasan. Any other discussion? Okay.
Dr. Kinst.
Mr. Cohen.
I want to say a lot of things, but I'm trying to be fair to everybody else and get home early. As a new member of the board, I think it's incumbent to express that as a new member, I was over there a year ago, and I had one view. Now that I'm sitting here, and now that I had an opportunity to sit in a couple operations committees meetings, it's a cold water bath, but it's also instructional on how fantastically professional, how hard the administration has worked with the constricted budget that we have to deal with, the rising health care costs, the special ed, the busing, et cetera. You've reviewed it. But all I keep hearing is, let's blame it on the state, let's blame it on the state. There is no pot at the end of the rainbow. There is no more money coming from the state next year, the year after, the year after, the year after. It's no magic bullet coming to save us. And the rubber is going to meet the road, not this year, but in the years down the road. And every stakeholder involved in this process better wake up and get with the program, because there is no extra money coming. The state is a mess. We're losing high earners as they're leaving, and they're being replaced by low earners. The tax ratables are not going to sustain year after year after year. The cost of the pensions, the legal challenges to what the administration has done regarding the pension, somebody's got to pay the bill, and it is coming due. So we can pontificate about how the state is squeezing us. Having said that, I just have to admire the job that I'm in and Dr. Schiff have done, considering what they know is coming next year and the year after and the year after. And this budget includes maintaining our academic excellence, maintaining all the other good programs. And as a newcomer, I am even more impressed. If I was more impressed than I could be when my kids went to this program, a total of 8 years, I am more impressed.
Thank you.
So thank you. I'll be voting yes on the temporary budget.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Mrs. Haas.
I swore I wasn't going to do this, but the bottom line is Hillsborough is a very comprehensive, low-cost school district. As Dr. Schiff pointed out, we're $8 million below the state cost per pupil. That is, on one hand, something to be proud of, but it's another, on the other hand, it's not something to be proud of when you think about all the opportunities that our kids aren't getting because we're $8 million below the average. We're not below the average in performance, and I think that is very much attributable to our teachers. And our teachers were the people who made the sacrifice back in 2010 when the bottom fell out of state aid and voluntarily contributed money back to our system so that we could maintain our programs. Even with that, we had to let go of 82 people. We're not back there yet, okay? In that year, 2010-11, the proposed budget by the then superintendent was $113 million. This is the first year we've gotten there, okay? That's 5 years ago. The other thing that came up earlier tonight was we had gotten a letter from somebody, I don't think I'm betraying any confidence here, from somebody who wanted to start a middle school volleyball program. And I had to laugh, unfortunately laugh, when I saw that because it made me nostalgic. And I'll tell you, it made me nostalgic for 2004 when I started on this board. Because back in the day, we had an athletic strategic plan. And I don't think anybody on this board other than me remembers this anymore, except for Lisa, sorry. But the bottom line is, we actually had a vision back in 2004 that we would be expanding our athletics, we'd be expanding our extracurriculars, we'd be expanding our academic program. And while we prioritize academics, we pride ourselves on being a comprehensive school district. And all of that is important to that process. Now, for people who are concerned about spending the cap bank, the health waiver, and putting out an additional $800,000 to pave that horrible, horrible disgrace of a parking lot over at the middle school, it's been a disgrace for a long time, okay? That adds up to about $2.5 million. If you translate that into teacher salaries, that's 35 teachers. So if you're not in favor of going beyond the cap, that's what the ultimate cost is, not that I would dream of taking it from there. But you know, we have no places to take this money from anymore, okay? We have been lean, okay? And the thought of 35 teachers is a huge hit on class size, huge hit on class size. And personally, I don't want to be part of that. I really don't want to be part of that. I think we need to make a statement. And I thought that 5 years ago too, but that was another story. Too bad Greg's not here to remind me of that. But the bottom line is we have choices to make. And the choice is to support the kids. That's our ethic. That's what we're here to do. And I am going to join Dr. Swanson in voting yes on this tentative budget because that's what we need to do. I'm done.
Thank you, Mrs. Haas.
Mr. Kinst,
Mrs. Haley.
I just want to make one thing really clear. Just because I'm voting no doesn't mean that I want to cut teachers or cut programs or anything else. I think, having been on no, Mrs. Haas, because I just want to make sure, that I make my point clear. I believe, philosophically, there are other ways to cut things. That's all I'm saying. And I said I would at the time. I'm not going to get into it right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions
Just
or
because I'm the
comments?
only one that hasn't spoken. I really don't have much to add. We've put a lot of thought into the budget in each of the committees. It's been a long process. Not one of us is happy about raising the taxes. All of us want to make sure we have a future and that we have money. I don't think that is the value of the board. I think at this point that we feel to keep moving forward, this is what we need to do. So, yeah, I really can't reiterate everything everyone said, but I think we really did put a lot of thought into this process. It wasn't without a lot of going back and forth and talking in every committee and with each other on how we can try and do it better. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Santafanti. Okay, so again, this is what's on the motion on the table is to approve items C6, 7, and 9, which are involve the budget. And again, this is the tentative budget, and on April 27th is when we will be voting on the final budget. So over the next 4 weeks, we'll continue to gather and listen to public input, and then also discuss within the committees any other opportunities that we have based on the feedback or other values, ideas that board members and the administration has. So with that, I'd like to have a roll call, please. Mr. Mahmood.
Sure. Ms. Boshetsky.
No.
Ms. Santafanti.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Haas.
Yes.
Mrs. Haley.
No.
Ms. Swanson.
Yes.
Mr. Kinst.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you. Moving on in the agenda, I'd like to open it up to comments from the public. This could be on new, old, or existing business.
Hi, I was Mike DiLorenzo 10 minutes ago, and I still am. So, I just like to make a comment that part of your slide was, I don't know if you want to go back to it. You were talking about math funding. Can you go back to it really quick? It was about like textbooks and classroom supplies, and obviously I go to the high school, and I am a math analysis student. I'm suffering through it right now. But anyway, part of the budget is to buy new supplies for it, but I have a math textbook. 2,000 years ago, the math textbook was established because that's when like those philosophers existed, and the information is still the same. So I don't really see the value in. Do you know how much it would cost for those math supplies, or no? Do you have like an estimated cost?
The increase in curriculum amounts to about $138 per student.
So 138 times 7,000 is a lot of muchos dollars. But anyway, why can't we just keep our textbooks that we have now? Because I have one right now, and they're still teaching the same math analysis, and they're still in good condition. So where is that coming from?
Hey, Dr. Antunes?
Or I can take a
I'm
stab.
sorry. Okay.
Where is what coming from?
Where is the demand for math
So
textbooks?
this is for the curriculum for the whole K through 12 experience. So it's not only for the specific classes. The more specialized courses may not have as much of a revamp, but for elementary, middle school, speaking as a parent, and then also I'm familiar with feedback from other parents with regard to for example, some of the math curriculum that we've had. We feel that it's time to refresh that. And so this is an effort to make sure that we're keeping up and keeping our curriculum current and we're just doing one subject matter as opposed to trying to do 5 at one time. So, in an effort for the sustainability is if instead of trying to do many curricula at one time, if we're able to do a single curriculum per year, that's a way to make sure that we're making good progress with regard to curriculum across the entire spectrum over a period of time.
I just don't see the demand. Like, I think that money could be used for other things.
Okay.
And I think that the board should consider that, because
Okay.
$130 over 7,000 kids is like millions of dollars that I think could be used other ways, to hire teachers, to do other problems that you guys want to deal with.
Okay, thank you for your input. Seeing no other. Okay, with regard to the agenda, we have the. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up.
Just a quick question. I'm sorry. I'm Colleen from Hillsborough. I wasn't even going to talk about the textbooks, but just a question. Who reviews in our educational system in the district? Like, who reviews and is the person who approves the textbooks? Like, to say that this is the curriculum that we want. I know that Park came through and there was no chance of looking at it. But for the textbooks, like, do you guys get to look at them?
Final authorization for curricula, textbooks, which includes textbooks. Textbooks are not the curriculum, but it's part of the instruction.
Part of it, yeah.
The board. It resides with the board.
Oh, so you guys do get to see the textbook?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I just wanted to clarify, going back to Mrs. Sherbo's comments about the park and how much it costs. So I just wanted to get it on the record. So all park-related costs are about, I think it was a little bit over $5,000. So park-related, and it was paid for by the state. That's what I want to get clear. Park-related things for Hillsborough are about $5,000, and it is paid for by the state of New Jersey. Yes or no?
No.
No.
The state pays for all the assessments, whether it's paper, pencil, or online. They pay for that. The $5,000 is what the district has written a purchase order and paid for different things.
Okay, what are the...
For example, earbuds. We bought some extra earbuds in case students forget their earbuds or don't have earbuds. We have some of those. We didn't buy one for each student, but we have some of those.
No, this is great news, because honestly, I think that out here, and what I've been hearing from other districts at the testimonies in Camden and everything, is that the districts are paying millions to implement Park.
Much of that is technological infrastructure, and our infrastructure was already put in place.
So you don't
We didn't have to. We were doing that anyway. It had nothing to do with Park.
So you were going to do it besides the
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
All right. So I just wanted to clarify that, because that's great news, and I didn't even know that the state was even paying for the actual assessment.
And they've been doing that for years.
Okay.
NJASC, HESPA, GEPA when it was GEPA, ESPA when it was ESPA. For years, the state's been doing that.
That's good. Now, in 2010, my children were little, and I really wasn't aware of a lot of this stuff. But in 2010, when you had up on the chart there, you guys had all this money from the state, and that was great, and then they cut it. Now, I might have been asleep back then, sleep deprived from little children, so I don't really think I know exactly. Why did they say that, why did they take it away? Because it's right about the time where they decided to take money from the federal government to do...
This was at the beginning of the recession.
I guess the government just didn't have it.
The bank crash, Wall Street went in a hole.
Right. No, I realize that, but I didn't...
Dr. Schiff.
Main Street went in a hole.
So, okay, so that was the reason...
Mr. Cohen, hold on a second. We'll let Dr. Schiff.
It actually occurred the year before that, and there were federal funds that came in to close the gap, and that supported the funding for 2009, 2010.
Right.
And then the tax revenues basically dried up, and there was a significant hole, and all districts in the state of New Jersey were reduced 5% of our operating expenses. Wow. So that translated, this was the year before I came, so it was $7 million, $8 million?
$5 million plus another $1.5 million from the Township Committee, plus they took another $400,000. I think in our current year reserve, was it 4 or 6?
I think it's 4. I think it's 4. It's 4.
So millions and millions of dollars.
Cut altogether.
which led to a historic reduction in staffing in this district as well as throughout the entire state.
No, I realize everybody had to go through it.
Wasn't unique. Every district was dealing with very, very significant cuts, especially if they were depending upon state aid.
Now, then it's gone up. It went up a little bit, I guess, in 2011 to 2012. Like, they just said things are a little better, and they were able to give more money. Is it? I'm not sure. Like, do you guys have to apply for more money, like by giving your? No, you don't.
No, these are entitlement monies, so we don't need to apply for state aid.
So they look at each district, and I'm learning a lot about this stuff, so I apologize. I know you all know it, but so then now it's gone up and it stayed flat. So there's no case for any Board of Ed or somebody was mentioning the public getting, like, is there people that we should be talking to saying that we need more money for our school? I believe
legislators.
You mentioned that, right? So the legislator, okay, so just speak to them, and they're the people that can help us get more money? You know, I want to help.
They can advocate for it.
You know,
So
so
they
we
can
can
advocate for it.
actually advocate and on the behalf of you guys, right, to get more money, right? Okay, and then I just have some other questions. I know that we're having the park testing currently. I know the snow kind of screwed things up, but so I know that the testing is happening, and then I realize that it's going to be happening again. I don't think the dates are set for May. I don't know. Does anybody know? I'm not sure, but they're happening again. And I could be totally wrong, but I was told that it was to see how much better they did from March to May. Is that correct?
No.
Is that why they're having two tests?
Okay, so PARC is made up of the performance-based assessments, which students are currently taking, and the end-of-year assessments. In order to get a score, students have to be assessed both times, and then they get one score from both times. It's not really about growth. They're not looking at growth. What they're looking at is have the students, what have they acquired by the time they reach 75% of the school year, and then what have they acquired after 90% of the school year?
Yeah, I guess to me, it just seems like there's only so many days, you know, now the snow, then there's spring break, which I hope they don't take away like last year. But, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. Now, the money that we pay or the state gave us, that covers both tests, I'm assuming.
Okay, again, the state didn't give us any money.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you said the state paid for
No,
the test.
the state pays for the test. They don't give it to us. It's a mandate that
they just give
right,
it to,
right.
they give
Okay,
the
so it's
actual
not money. No
assessment.
money comes to us. The money that the $5,000, $5,300, $5,327.90
Right.
of purchase orders that we've written should take us through even some of it next year. It's just,
Right.
you know, some of the things
right,
that
other money doesn't even come out of you guys. It just is already
no money. State pays for it. We don't get any. Doesn't flow through us. Nothing.
And then a friend of mine that couldn't be here was just wondering if there was any plan, because it seems a lot of people in the public, and I really honestly don't know how many people get to speak to you. You know, you guys are kind of like up here, and some people feel like you know, and that you know everything, and we don't. And not that you say that. I think that we just feel that way, you know, and that's why I'm trying to, you know, become more active and be able to support you guys. But anyway, the question was, some places have had like park informational nights, or they've, you know, presented the test, you know, so that the parents could come and actually sample the test, and given a lot more information. I mean, really, honestly, a lot of people, just so you know, in Hillsborough, until a lot of people took to Facebook, didn't even really know this test was happening. They thought it was kind of the same thing as NJ Ask. It's sad. They didn't realize how much instructional time was taken away from their children. So I just don't know if that's anything in place, or if anybody's asked you guys to do it. I think it would be a great idea to host something like that, and just to let the parents sample the test. I've sampled it. Didn't do good, I will be honest. Good thing I'm not smarter than a fourth grader. But, you know, maybe that might be something that you could think of. And I'm going to be wrapping up, sorry, people. But the last time somebody, I think it was Danielle Greco, I think it was her. She's a teacher out of district, but kids are in school here. And she asked for a resolution like that was taken in the Bridgewater-Raritan area. And then there's other schools, too. And I believe Ms. Haas had read the resolution from the other districts. And I know other ones at Livingston and Delran, I believe, have come into it. Is there any, like, have you guys thought about it at all? Like, or is it you're just gung-ho park and you don't want to, I don't know, are you or not? I mean, I'm looking for people to be gung-ho park because everything I read I hate, and I just think it's a stupid test, but I'm looking for, I want someone to tell me why it's so great and why our state made us do it. But anyway, I know I'm throwing this question out, but it would be a good idea. I don't know who would be the person to do that. I don't know if it would be the Board of Ed or I could do it. I don't know. You know, we just need this room, I guess. But, you know, so that somebody asked me about that. So is that not being thought about?
So you hit us with a lot of things.
I'm
so
sorry.
and
I know.
All
I'm
right,
very excited.
It's good. No. More is better than not coming up at all. So totally appreciate it. And, you know, we're not on a pedestal. We're everyday parents and Hillsborough residents, just like you are. With regard to the technology, I know that there's been items that's been put on the website with regard to information on Park.
Right.
In terms of the resolution for something similar that Bridgewater Raritan, we discussed it at the last board meeting. There wasn't a majority support for passing something like that.
I was here, and you didn't like it. And so you were like, I'm not in favor of that resolution. And then another gentleman, who's not here, where is he? But he said, I don't like standardized testing at all. And a lot of people said they didn't like it, but yet they didn't want to do the resolution. So that's why I just was wanting to talk about it.
And also just to be aware, part of the board's obligation is to comply with state law and and act at the best. So there are quite a few of us who have very strong opinions or values that are different than Common Core, Park, but it's also, we recognize it's our obligation and responsibility to make sure that we perform.
So you can't really talk about, right? You can't really, like, if you, I'm not saying you do, but if you hated it, you couldn't say because it's not good, right? No, I'm just saying.
And members have.
Right,
so,
right.
But you know, you know, it's complex, especially with Common Core. It does have support with multiple New Jersey-based groups. So, for example, the New Jersey School Boards Association supports it. The New Jersey Education Association supports Common Core. Right. They have a different position with regard to Park. And as I just said, the NJSBA, which is the board's representative group, is support for both. You know, this is a standardized test, which we have. You know, Dr. Antuni has rattled off, you know, all the different acronyms that happened over the past, you know, since then we've been in high school and taking those, you know, Iowa tests.
Yeah, I remember taking like a couple, but nobody ever taught me the test. You know, it was like one day it showed up in a couple hours, and we're like, oh, you know. And then it was like a couple of times, and from kindergarten to 8th grade, I remember it like 2 or 3 times possibly. Nobody ever talked about it before because nobody ever taught to it, and there was no computers, you know, so it was a lot different. You know, I'm 100, so, you know, there was no, you know.
So we're right in the middle of the park. So let's go through. We'll wait and see, and then.
Right. So I just wanted to make so there is no like night coming out to tell people about it.
We have had different evening activities that have occurred in different schools throughout the district.
Many of the schools have had their own evenings, which is why we didn't do a district one, because we felt that parents would feel more, from what the administrators relayed to us, the building-based administrators, that the parents would feel more comfortable with their own administrators discussing it.
Oh, yeah,
but certainly
I'm sorry,
if you have any questions, please
told.
feel free to reach out, send me an email, and I can certainly discuss it with you.
What's that? Well, they're saying that there was school. Oh, you want me to ask? Oh, do you know what schools? Because
I don't know off the top of my head.
I only represent 2
However,
schools.
I will tell you that each school has I believe each school, maybe most of the schools, maybe not every single one of them, have their own website. And then on our website, we also have frequently asked questions and things like that.
Stuff on the website didn't pop up till about a couple of weeks ago, but I was thinking more of like an explanation to parents where parents can go and they can talk about it and that kind of thing. That's more.
It's actually part of our frequently asked questions. We have a link there's several links to where parents can go and take a look and take some tests, just read about it.
Yeah, I just meant live.
On our website.
I meant live.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that feedback,
That's all right.
and the administration will take
Thank
it back.
you. I know I asked a bunch of things, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Haley.
I wanted to thank the woman that was just up speaking, because I know that I personally and all of us scream and shout at the top of our lungs, good, bad, ugly, that we want more public participation. So thank you for taking an active role. We're just normal residents, just like everybody else. We are no better than anyone. Approach us and shop. Well, maybe not shop right, but I'm not wearing makeup. But I mean, I'm always open to having discussions and dialogue and trying to help as much as I possibly can. Personal feelings aside, and what many of us conveyed for the last meeting with regard to park, we do unfortunately also have that obligation to uphold the law when it comes to certain things, personal feelings aside. So how we feel about something is not necessarily what we have to do when it comes to upholding the law. So, thank you very much.
Hi. Hi. My name is Leisha. I live in Hillsborough. I just had a quick question for you. So would you be able to confirm that the public is able to view the tentative budget?
Tentative budget is actually listed in the resolution in this agenda, and then the greater detail will be forthcoming in the user-friendly budget, and that'll be published, Mr. Mahmood?
48 hours after the final budget, but we'll have it up that evening after the board approves the final budget. By law, the board has 48 hours. We will have it up that evening.
Do they
No.
get to see, is this
How about this?
Yeah, they can see this. I mean, I don't know, Dr. Schiff, they can see this.
Well, this presentation will be, available on YouTube, and it'll be available as well. So this is everything that I spoke about.
So we find this presentation, and from that, we're able to see clearly what is in the budget? Like, is it going to be a downloadable thing as well?
No, the level of detail in terms of expenditures and revenues comes out with the user-friendly budget. And as Mr. Mahmood indicated, it'll be forthcoming. And we'll put it up once we have that available and we put it in. What happens is that every district in the state of New Jersey has to present their budget in the same way with the same software. So Mr. Mahmood and Mr. Boland actually go through the state software, inputting all of the different expenditures, and then the software then tells us if there's particular errors here or if we've gone over a particular thing. The budget software is a very detailed document that's controlled by law and administrative code. So we have to go through that process once the board goes through approving the tentative budget. So it is a complex process in order to make sure that every single district is presenting the exact same information. And that's part of state law about the user-friendly budget. And the timelines are controlled by the state as well. And the board, your elected officials, are responsible for going through those details and voting in public what the bottom line is going to be. We've also presented the board with a great deal of detail, right down to how much duct tape there is. And that's available for the public upon request. So, but it's a very thick, very detailed document. I mean, literally, it's 300 pages, I think, and every board member has a copy of that.
So the condensed one is only going to be available after it's finalized in April. Is that correct? But there's nothing right now except for perhaps the 300-page that we could get now by request?
We have this is the summary. This is the summary.
The
and
summary
then
is
the budget
available right
detail
now?
is
Sorry?
available upon request.
Okay, how do I request that?
I think there's value for providing information to the public prior to the April 27th meeting. So in our next operations committee or governance committee, we can talk about how we can convey this information to the public prior to the 27th, so that they can be properly informed and can be properly prepared for the 27th meeting when we have the hearing on the final budget. Okay.
Because I know that there's a link on your website, which I haven't been able to get it to work. It says 2015 to 2016 budget. It may say tentative.
We just approved it tonight.
Okay, so you have to approve the tentative, and then it will be available. Okay,
then
so I should be able to
the information
download
that we
a
shared will go
300-page document? No. A shortened version?
So what
Or
will
I
be
need to email
available
someone?
tomorrow, or what we just voted on, was the total number, and I'll direct the various committees, the operations committee, to see how we can convey the right information to the public in advance of the 27th meeting, so that people can see where the funding goes specifically, so they can provide, so they can be properly prepared and informed for when we have the final budget hearing on April 27th.
So do you know when that would be available to the public? Sorry to push this, but
That's the part we're going to finalize. So we haven't set that from a board perspective as to when we would make, which information we make available and by when. But we do. I'm directing the committees to do so that we can make sure that we're properly informing the public about what our budget will be.
okay. So I don't think I got an answer on when exactly that would be available.
Right,
Would
so
the
we
best way, if we wanted to look in detail at the budget, to look at the last year's while we're waiting for this tentative one then?
I mean, that'll give you a baseline for how we're spending the money for this year, and then I mean, there's going to be increases and decreases in different areas, but at least I can give you an idea of how we're spending our money now.
Okay, because it seems as though you want public input, but without seeing the numbers, I'm not sure exactly how the public could give input by, instead of saying, except for just saying, I want this, you don't need to do that.
I understand. I hear.
Also, did you know that the governor is going to be doing a town hall tomorrow in Somerville? Yep. Are any of you planning on going? It's at 11.
I was attending, but I just started a new job yesterday, so I had to back out. But it's at 11 a.m. tomorrow in Somerville.
Right, 11 a.m., anyone? Because I thought maybe that would be a way if you wanted to ask for more funding.
Oh, really?
I'm going to try to take time off and go and ask about one topic I'm interested in.
Okay.
But,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Danielle Sharino again. I just wanted to go off of something that Colleen had been asking, where she brought up about the lack of information provided about the park testing before it came. There was nothing put on any of the websites until after the last board meeting, that was 2 weeks ago. That was when things started showing up on the websites. But there was nothing sent home my children are at Sunnymead, so I can't talk about the rest of the schools, but at Sunnymead at least. There was nothing sent home. There was no instant alerts sent home about it, nothing, until one of the parents in our school sent an email to Dr. Jenkins and asked, what are the dates of the test? What are the times of the test? When is the language arts section? When is the math section? We got nothing until a few days before the park was supposed to start. And I think the problem that happens when there is no information provided is that there's a lot of inferences made, there's a lot of just guesses made as to what the test is being tested on, what the purpose of it is, why it's being given to the kids, why it's being changed from the NJ Ask to the park. And what I see, I'm going to go back to my private practice again because I can talk about what especially the high school students tell me, or the middle school students. I see kids all throughout this district. I see kids in other districts too, but I'm here in Hillsborough, I'm talking about Hillsborough students of what they have told me, that they don't know anything about this test, that the test is too difficult, it's going to be testing them on material that they're not ready for, or that they know friends who are in honors classes and are just starting to cover the material that's on the testing for their grade. And so if their parents aren't refusing them out, they're going to take the test and they're going to answer all A's or go A, B, C, D, and that's what they're going to do. So I'm letting you know because this is what's going on. It's what's going on already for the testing that happened on Tuesday for some of the elementary students, because I know it's already happened, but I know I've had high school students and middle school and on-road students tell me the same thing, that that's what they're going to do. Because they don't have any information on the test. They don't know why they're being given that test. They don't want to be given the test. They don't like the format of it, not just the testing questions themselves, but the format of it is confusing. It is hard to maneuver within that program, that there are the essay questions. It's hard to even realize that you can expand the box to make it even bigger. So they're not writing much. They're writing about 2 sentences for an essay. We know our students are much brighter than that. We have extremely smart students in this school. you're not going to get the results on the park that you're looking to get.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, seeing no public comments, any old business from board members? Mrs. Bogaczewski.
Not about the park. I just wanted to say that on February 28th, we had our first charity convention at Chrono CrossFit with the owners of Yuri and Anton for one of our fellow students, Naomi Jardine. She goes to junior high, and right now she's fighting ALL. And I just wanted to say a special thank you to all the teachers in the district who showed up, and we were able to raise close to $800. So I think that's pretty great.
Thank you. Mrs. Haley.
I just wanted to give, I guess, what I could say is a shout out at 9:30, but a big thank you to the students and the staff in the arts program. I attended on Monday evening at the municipal building a display of a lot of the children in our district's work, and actually was caught taking a picture of one young lady's painting because it was just so beautiful, and her dad actually was standing next to me and introduced me. And I always like to be able to introduce myself to staff members too, because we don't really get to associate with them a lot. So it was a really great evening, and we really have talented people in the district, so thank you very much for that.
I sure do. Thanks, Mrs. Haley. Dr. Song.
No, go ahead.
I also wanted to add to what Dr. Schiff said earlier about the swim team. I was lucky enough to be at MOCs. My daughter was an alternate for the relays. But you missed two of the biggest announcements, I think, from that meet, which are every year they pick a New Jersey high school swimmer of the year, both male and female, and this is the first year that they were both from Hillsborough. Brad Zadroik and Juliana Parker were the male and female, respectively, swimmer of the year. So congrats to them.
This is actually old business that we had discussed about at the last board meeting, and this is coming from, I guess, my neighborhood of Woods Road. We were just wondering, in the past, I guess I'm not on Facebook, but this has been circulating on Facebook about all the fire drills and fire alarms and evacuations, and we were just wondering exactly what is the protocol, because we didn't have that at our school. When there was a smoke-filled room, our principal just moved them instead of evacuating them and calling the fire department. And I noticed that all the other schools, when there's a smoke-filled room, they pull the fire alarm, the fire chief comes out and inspects everything, and there's proper protocol. But I just don't know, is that just their schools, or do we all have that? I mean, I'm just trying to get it, some kind of clarification on exactly what is the proper thing. I mean, when I see smoke, I leave the building. I don't stay in the building and just go to another room. So I was just trying to figure out what exactly are my children supposed to do when their classroom, because that was my son's classroom, who filled with smoke. And he did. I mean, he came home and smelled like a barbecue. And I need him to understand exactly what is he supposed to do, because he didn't understand why he didn't see the fire department and why he couldn't leave the school. He didn't understand, and it's hard to try and explain to a 2-year-old when everything he's saying is correct, and unfortunately, I agreed with him. I don't understand why there was an evacuation. I don't understand, because he asked me that if our house filled with smoke, what would we do? And I said, well, we would get out.
Dr. Schiff?
Yeah, we have the fire marshal that is coming to our next leadership team meeting. It's actually, I believe, on Tuesday or Monday of next week, to discuss the very matter and to talk about those type of things and whether, what judgment, if any, are our principals or our teachers are expected to to exercise during a variety of different, fire emergencies or smoke incidences or the smell of smoke, those type of things. So I'm looking forward to that conversation to ensure, and this is what I said at our last meeting, ensure that there is a common response to a similar incident. And I think that's very important for our district to go through a process of case study, take a look at it, what would you do in this situation, involve the professionals in that conversation too, so that regardless of who the administrator is, we have a consistent response to those type of things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other old business? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're adjourned. Thank you.